Facebook.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is Doug, and we are back with AR101. Can you believe it? I know it's been a while. I hope everybody missed us because I missed you. Tonight, it's AR101, and we're talking about Expedition Colorado. So obviously, I had to put a beach scene in the background because it has nothing to do with what we're doing. But this is where I'd like to be right now. We're going to kick it to Jeff. Jeff, tell us what's going on with Warrior.
Well, we are recovering from Colorado because we have to spend like 3 weeks there. We have to set the course, which takes a while. Olof and these teams will understand why it took us so long to set that course because the points were pretty high up, and it takes a while to get those down. So we just got back and we drove back and kind of getting ready for next weekend. So next weekend is the 5th annual Blue Ridge Ultra, and we got the new logo. So about every 5 years, I like to jazz up, the medals and the logos. I like to change things up. So it's our 5th year of the Blue Ridge Ultra. So we decided to create a new Blue Ridge Ultra Marathon logo. We're going to go with the pink shirts this year, and instead of our normal blue and other different colors that we've always provided. So we're kind of getting ready for that. There's over 350 runners for that race that's coming up. They actually have a brand new iron bridge now. So they kept the old bridge as a footbridge only, and they built a whole brand new bridge right next to it. So we're excited the fact that we're going to be able to start and finish on the old bridge, and that makes for a unique finish line. And then, of course, we head down to Florida after that. For the next 4 events, we go to the scariest adventure race ever, which is what is that?
Cauldron.
Oh, the Cauldron. I don't even know what races I have anymore.
Don't worry, I got you.
The Cauldron must be popular because there's over 65 teams already signed up for that race. People like getting their, shit scared because we're going to scare the hell out of them. I have a new immortal mask that I just ordered, and it came in for that event. So this is going to be chasing you around in the middle of the night while you're trying to find checkpoints. So I just ordered that, and so I'm excited. Eric, Dave, we have, I think, 6 people total are going to be in costume, and you'll never know where they are. Absolutely never know where they are. They're going to be at a checkpoint. And since there's like 25 checkpoints, you have no idea when you're going to get popped. So people must like it because they keep coming back. And then, of course, we took over FLX's Turkey Burn, which has been going on since Hunter and I even started racing. So that race, I don't even know how many years that's been going on, probably 15, 20 years. The Turkey Burn, which will be in November. And then we also took over Manny's Resolution race in Croom, and that will be in January. So basically October, end of October, November, skipping December, we have January, the Resolution. And of course, then we dive right into the C2C, which is in February.
And I hope that everybody will be at C2C because I will be there. And I mean, who wants to miss that?
Yeah.
So let's get back to talking about Expedition Colorado because first of all, how many of you are from Colorado?
1, 2, 3, yeah.
The three of the people on here.
I know Matt's not.
No, Matt's not. So let's go around. First, let's introduce everybody. So Matt, let's start out with the foreigner. And you tell us who you are, tell us your team name. We'll go around.
All right, so Matt Daly is here. I'm just outside of the Memphis area, so only a couple 100 feet off of the ground. Colorado was kind of a big jump for me in that aspect. Team name, sometimes I race on Grit and Grind. For this particular one, we just chose Living on a Prayer. It was one of our team members, Kelly, was joining. He's the one that actually invited me and my teammate Brad to kind of to join up for this. It was his kind of the spark of idea. So we just listed out a couple different team names. We wanted to keep it light, keep it fun. And this is the team name we ended up on. And so it was myself, Brad Schlegel, and Kelly Jepson, and Brad is actually from Colorado, so and Kelly's from Utah, so they had a much easier time than I did as far as adjusting to the elevation.
Nice. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, so my name is Eric Crowley, Team WTF, We Three Friends, or sometimes used as another regular acronym. Yeah, so we're newbies. My buddy Mikey Michelle lives in the Phoenix area, and then my other buddy Brian Frank lives in the Fort Worth area. So they were flatlanders coming up to elevation. Did their best to come up early, but I think next time we might add some more days to when they come up. But yeah, so first time, but loved it. It was excellent.
Awesome. Olaf.
Hello, my name is Olof Hedberg. I raced on Team Warrior for this race and also for Expedition Alaska. I did my first adventure race. I'm originally from Sweden. Did my first adventure race in 1999 in Sweden. So this is a 25-year anniversary for me. Raced on many, many different teams over the years. Most notably on adventure medical kits, and was third at World Championships in 2017, and I think ranked second in the world in 2018. But raced on a lot of different teams, basically a mercenary. Race with fast teams, race with slow teams. As long as there's a fun race, I'm happy to have it. For the last decade, I lived in Colorado. I live on 10,000 feet, and the race course went about 3K from my house. So that was kind of nice.
That's awesome. Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, so I live outside of Boulder, Colorado, so split the difference between sea level and 10,000 feet. Raced on team, professionally lost, so a little bit of a double entendre. So I'm currently in between full-time jobs, and this is what I did to fill my time, was training up for an adventure race. But I also believe that if you're going to do something like go out and get lost in the woods on a race course, you should do it at a high level. So professionally lost. This was my second ever adventure race, but I do have a little bit of a composite background in racing. I've done Spartan Beast Race, Ultra Beast, World's Toughest Mudder twice. Grew up cross-country mountain bike racing, and my dad used to be a navigator for a team that was at one point, I think, ranked number 3 in Canada. So combined, I figured it was time to put all the pieces together and actually start doing some real adventure races, and had an absolute blast at Expedition Colorado.
So I hear you know how to suffer. That's what I hear. That's what this is all about, right?
Yep.
So Jeff, talk us through this course breakdown. I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see the full course layout and kind of talk us through where it started, what your idea was for the course. I'll back up a little bit so everybody can see the full course.
So, all right. So with any race in Colorado, I've been designing now 4 years now. I've been designing Expedition Colorado, and I have 3 races designed because the weather is the key. This is the design that I originally had if it was perfect weather. I have a backup if it's really horrible weather, to basically if it was bad weather, I got to get them immediately up to the highest point so that they can get down and off of the mountain before the thunderstorms in the afternoon. So with it being perfect weather, I allowed this trek that they did at the beginning was actually supposed to be at the end. It was at the end of the 10 hour. So I let them do it first just to get their legs warmed up, and then it's not really high up. It only goes up about 400 or 500 feet, so it wasn't that brutal. Then they had a bike over to TA1, which was actually really short on the second design. But since we had good weather, I allowed them to bike the big route to get to TA1. So with any Colorado race, I have pretty much 3 designs in plan.
Okay. And then, I mean, it looks like to me, what were your guys' thoughts going into this about, like, how you were going to attack it, and what were you most looking forward to? And Olaf, I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of experience. What were you looking forward to the most in the race?
I looking forward to it when you get the maps. This honestly, to clear the whole course, it's like one of the more brutal 24. I don't do as much 24, 30-hour races. I do more expedition races, but I've done several. The only thing I can think of matching this might be Wilderness Traverse in Canada. It's for different reasons. I very seldom seen such a hard course over 25 years of racing in as a one night course.
Yes.
You just made Jeff's night.
Yes.
No, the vert is brutal. You look at it and you think, oh, Mount Geo is hard. That's not even the hard leg. The hard leg. The good thing is, right, there's 3 transition areas over 36 hours, so you can carry relatively little food and eat a lot in the TAs to keep it light. A key is to keep a light pack because you're doing so much vert. But the night mountain biking is absolutely brutal course on that, and we get to that later. I would also say that we knew that there was a dark zone you couldn't put in before 6, so but that didn't come into play for many people. But the course overall, yeah, very brutal.
So, all right, this is coming from somebody who lives
Yeah.
at altitude. So, Matt, I want to come to you because this is definitely not what you were used to. So, when you were looking at the maps and looking at the vert, like, what were your first thoughts going into this?
So my very first thought is I never thought I would wish for sand, like that sand in
Sugar
Florida.
sand, yeah.
To be going through that instead of looking at all these mountains that we were going to, and all the elevation gain and decline. And I didn't think I was going to miss the Florida sand ever again, but I was longing for it all of a sudden when looking at the maps. Like right away, I just could recognize that we were going to have to keep, our hydration in check. We're going to have to keep our fuel in check, and we're going to have to just, minimize the downtime, because the best way to get through it is just to find ways to keep going. But it looked brutal for certain.
Yeah, and Jordan, I mean, this was your first real adventure race, right? So how was that getting used to, like, I mean, you're looking at the maps for the first time, and how was that overwhelming? Like, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I barely looked at the maps before we started the race. I was so focused on what's in my TA box, getting my bike ready, and just double checking gear that, frankly, I was examining the maps stage by stage as I started, and sometimes literally reading them as I go. I didn't actually even start the race with a map case. I got really fortunate that someone I ended up running with from from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2 had a spare map case and took pity on me. But yeah, very much I came into it with an attitude of I'm going to clear the course until that seems like a bad idea. And that's what I did through checkpoint 21.
Okay. And then, I mean, team, I'm just going to call you what the fuck, because you might be 3 friends, but most of the time, like when I see this map, I'm thinking what the fuck. So tell me what you guys, because you had people that were flatlanders on your team, probably not as intimidating for you, but what was it like for them?
I mean, both of them are very, very athletic individuals. They've done a lot of things in the past. World Toughest Mudder, Rim to Rim to Rim, ultra marathon. So the elevation was definitely the big question mark for them. But I think just a lot of the unknowns about adventure racing, nutrition. I mean, I think Jeff made a comment at the beginning of the race with our packs being so big. We were just so worried about not having gear or not having this or not having that, because we just didn't know. So we kind of took the same approach as Jordan, as far as we're just going to go each leg. We're not going to plan out too much. But I think our perspective going into it was we just wanted to finish. We didn't want to DNF. And so we kind of took it leg by leg to see what we could do or what we were capable of. And so we're pretty happy with how we ended up doing, and we know we can do a lot better going forward. Definitely having lighter packs would be number one change.
Yeah,
But a
you
lot of
back
other
your
things
fears,
too.
right? I mean, that
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
does. Well, and I mean, Hunter has talked about that religiously about like not packing your fears and just take what you know you're absolutely going to need. And the good thing with races with Warriors, you know you're getting fed well. So the TAs are always amazing, and the food there is always great. When I guess, you know, Olaf, obviously you came in wanting to clear the whole course. Jordan, that was your mindset from the very beginning. Matt and Eric, was that your mindset going in, is we're going to try to clear, or did you know right away looking at this that you weren't going to be able to?
So we were looking to clear the course until it became a mathematical decision to make cuts in order to get the most checkpoints possible. So, but we went in with the attitude that we wanted to clear the course.
And
So
Eric,
Yeah, so
So-
I mean, we wanted to not leave any checkpoints behind until we knew we had to. And so I think the first 3 legs we cleared, we got up to the mountain. We actually went reverse up Guyot so that we could make it before sunset. But once we got on the mountain bikes at night, we realized that tenderfoot was not going to happen. And then later on in the race, we kind of started dwindling out, and it was like, okay, we probably just need to do what we can and get to the finish before we totally fizzle off the map here.
yeah, so when you look at that map, Doug, you got the green obviously is the trekking, the red
Okay.
is the mountain biking, and the blue is the paddling. So they had a huge trek, and I mean that's a monster trek with a lot of vert at TA1. So then they had to basically head north towards Keystone, which is a beautiful route, by the way. I mean, the mountain biking is beautiful, but the Tenderfoot is one of the toughest double black diamond, mountain bike trails in Colorado. It doesn't look that intimidating, but it's up there pretty high. And the trail leading up is pretty much just a hike a bike. I mean, you can grind it up there, but it's pretty much a hike a bike. It was going to be the backbreaker for most teams.
yeah, and you know, I mean, I look at a course like this and I'm like, I'm already cutting off high points from the beginning, and I'm sure there were teams that were doing that in order to get, you know, make sure that you get around. So
The guy at Summit was worth 3 points, which is not talked about there. So we went up there and put a sign up there that showed the elevation. That's all they had to do is to write down, but it was worth 3 points.
right.
So, and there's only 6 below. So it's kind of like, it was a teaser, like, oh, maybe we should go for it. We really wanted a lot of teams, but I would say that half the teams skipped it and half the teams went for it, which is a good amount.
And was that the one that you had the picture of where people is like the big rocky
Yes.
Point?
That's it right there. Yeah. So that's the highest point in the race. That's 13.3. And it's a tough mountain because even though it's a 13er, it is a scramble pretty much from tree line, loose rock scramble all the way up and then all the way down the backside. There's no easy way to attack it.
Let's see if I can. Satellite doesn't even do it
Oh,
justice.
yeah.
You can start to see it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a grind. I mean, Olaf will tell you he lives there and he's like, really? You're taking us up over that?
He's like, thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's a backyard mountain for me. Like it's right there.
Yeah.
Nice. So what was the mountain biking like? Well, I'll start with you, Eric, because you're from that area. Like, were you on trail? Was it single track? Like, was it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both, I'd say. I I think I've been doing a lot of mountain biking in the Denver area. So I'm used to doing, you know, like a 1,200-foot climb just continuously. Unfortunately, my Flatlander friends don't have the luxury of those types of hills where they're from. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of hike and bike for us. I mean, it was really enjoyable. The downhills, I mean, we were just jumping with joy, you know, obviously trying not to crash and be idiots, but the downhills were so much fun. And so even after a brutal climb, you had that to look forward to. But it was, yeah, everything about the mountain bike I enjoyed. I thought it was awesome.
Jordan, how about for you? I mean, like, so when did you actually start like looking at the maps and going, okay, I can get this many points? Or were you just like, I'm going to go until I start looking at my watch and figuring out I can't?
Yeah, that was literally the decision making process because I was moving middle of the pack, I think, until I finished up the hike with Gaia, and then I asked at the TA, and they said that like I think 4 or 5 teams had left before me that had cleared all the checkpoints up to that point. So in my head, that was the ranking of the competition. I'm like, okay, so I've moved up to like closer to upper third, and set off strong in that night biking. I left TA1 at midnight, and for me it was that tenderfoot climb. Hit the tenderfoot climb and I just ground to a halt. You know, that was 20 hours into the race. I froze crossing Keystone Valley. There was an inversion in place. It was down in the mid 30s at the valley floor. And at that point I realized, like, I am climbing at 600 or 700 feet an hour. It's going to take me a couple more hours to knock out this tenderfoot climb. And then I started doing math. I'm like, oh, I'm not cleaning the bike portion of the course. And so about, you know, somewhere around 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. is when I started really looking at the map hard and figuring out what I could chisel away from the course.
Matt, what about you guys?
So our first decision point was right at checkpoint 18, which would, you know, your decision is to continue on and go up tenderfoot. We looked at it and decided we were not going to go the what would look like the obvious route. We were going to go down the highway. We're going to go around to get checkpoint 20. So we got checkpoint 18, and yeah, instead of going up towards 19 there, we went back down to the highway. We zoomed the highway all the way up to a neighborhood, got 20, and from there, we were going to talk about leaving our bikes there and jogging over to get to 19 if we had time, or we were going to skip 19 altogether and shoot back down and try to get the rest of the points. So when we got to 20, after shooting down the highway, we decided that kind of did some reverse engineering on. At the beginning of the race, there was like an estimated distance on the lake. We didn't have the lake map at that point, but there was like an estimated distance. We did some kind of backwards math on what time we would need to start the lake in order to clear the rest of the course. And we determined we just needed to skip 19 at that point. So we got to skip like the hardest part of the course.
Yeah.
And I think it ended up getting us pretty decent points. The tracker didn't capture our points correctly, but I think we ended up with 34 points. So we did pretty well point-wise overall.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I remember watching when people got to the paddle section, and there were like very distinct differences in like route choice on that, because you could get those in any order, right?
Yeah.
And so who chose to go the northern route first and then hit the in and outs to come back? Raise a hand who did that in here. Okay, so ish. And then like who hit these points and then hit the far point first and then hit open water across the back. Olaf, let's talk about that then. What came into play there? Because, you know, obviously there's a big section of open water one way or the other, early or late. What was the wind like, and how did that factor into your decision?
Yeah, so honestly, not that much, because we were on very stable kayaks and very slow kayaks. So it was just grinding it out. I was at the TA at 4:45 and got a 45-minute credit there. So I was able to, I actually had my foot in the kayak at 5:58 and I was, and 6 o'clock I pushed off. So to maximize time there, right? And after about 20 minutes of paddling, I realized it can blow as much as it matters. I'm not going to flip this guy. So I was just trying to make the fastest way possible, like the most straightest line I could think of. But that was basically my my strategy there. I
So
tried
you
to
went
keep
south
up,
first and then came back across.
yeah, and came back across. If it would have been, if I would have been scared, you know, if in something tippy, or I've definitely been scared before in kayaks. New Zealand Godzone Chapter 4, I was very scared. So, but since I knew that wasn't gonna happen, I was like, I can take this as late as possible because the vessel I'm in allows me to go wherever, whenever.
You
And
should have been in
Olaf had the coldest paddle out of everyone
I was
because he hit it when it was
Yeah,
like
it's still
35 degrees.
Yeah.
So, and the
I-
water is very, very cold too. So, the permit had us required to have two safety boats out there, just because of that water. Most people die on that lake now. It's sad, but about 5 people die every year on that lake.
Wow.
Because they fall off their, surf skis or anything like that. They don't realize how cold that water is, and it's a shock to them, and they drown. So but he was there at the coldest. I felt so sorry for him. Like, you sure you want to go out? And he's like, yeah, I want to get this done. And I'm like, all right.
I was shivering like the entire. I normally in a normal, I think that would take me about 4 hours, and instead it took 5 hours, and it was 5 hours of like I was hypothermic the entire time. I should have had a dry suit, but I was like, didn't think about it.
Well, then, yeah, you have to think about that, because then if you do go in those conditions, like, how do you warm up, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
there is no warming up.
even
Like,
if, yeah. So I think, so who went south first? Was that you, Matt? Your team go south first or north first?
We went north. Yeah, we went north, and the idea there for us is we took off a little bit after 9. Based on the calculation, I was a little bit worried that we might be cutting about 30 minutes a little bit too late to clear the rest of the course. So I wanted to do that route with the option of skipping that southernmost point if we had to.
Was that
I
out
thought the
back
other ones
there?
were just easier to find, just navigationally and logistically. And I thought if we had to skip one, it would have to be that southernmost one right there.
30.
Right.
Yeah. See, those fingers, that's the design of the course, is that you had 4 real easy ones there at the beginning. And then those 3 fingers were the challenges. That's an extra 1.5 miles.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the distance there. I mean, that's an extra almost 3K.
Yeah.
Out and back. So that's, that's
and that one was very hard to find.
Yes,
Oh,
it
was
was.
Yes, it was.
So when you guys, Eric, were you guys in a 3-person canoe?
We were in a 2-person canoe and I was in a small little kayak.
In a kayak. Okay. And Jordan, obviously you were by yourself in a kayak. Was it more difficult in the kayaks? Or do you think that, do you think the canoes had a better opportunity?
We didn't have canoes. We had tandem kayaks
Tandem kayak,
or
okay.
single kayaks. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they're probably pretty stable then. So you guys get out of that. What was the latest? I'm trying to see what the latest, like, out of that checkpoint area. Like, were you guys there? What was the time period that you guys were there? Like middle of the day?
I think we got there around 11.
Okay.
We were we were way behind. We were the last ones in TA1, and yeah, we were straggling.
Jordan was actually the last one, I believe, at TA1 at 2A2 to get on.
I think Gator Oh, TA2.
Jordan or Gator Bait was the last ones out of TA2.
Yeah, we were both getting our stuff together at the same time and left TA2 somewhere around like 3:15, 3:30 p.m. So
Yeah, by the way, Doug, Gator Bait is from Gainesville, obviously, the only Florida team there. And he did quite well. We thought he was going to struggle. He actually took a 2-hour nap up on top of the mountain.
Yeah, I got a good story about that if you want to hear about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
So we're coming down from CP11 after 12. So we did 12, went up to CP11. As we're coming down the hill, it's the middle of the night, we hear somebody say, "Help." And we all look over to our right and we see this big, emergency blanket tinfoil thing light up the sky. And we're like, "Oh gosh." So we all rush over there. Like, "Hey, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just taking a nap." And we're like, "Okay, sure." So we kind of keep walking, and then we ended up finding another guy that got lost from his group. But we were all just like, "Oh gosh, this isn't good."
So that wasn't the guy that asked for help?
No.
No, it was somebody else. Didn't have a headlight, didn't have anything. So we
He's like, don't wake me up, dude. What the heck?
yeah, we felt bad after that. We're like, gosh, I mean, we're like, did you just yell help while you're sleeping? What happened? Like, what's going on?
yeah, I think this was round about the time that I crossed paths with you, Eric, because you guys were coming down the ridge, I was going up.
Yeah, you were going up and we were coming down.
Yeah, so what ended up, because around about that time, the guy that got lost, I had temporarily gotten a little bit off the ridge onto the like northeast exposure of Guyot, and I could hear somebody lost in the scree field, and the sun had just gone down. It was headlamp o'clock, and I'm like, someone out there, and there's no headlamp, nothing. And ended up having a
Wow.
shouting match with this guy from like 200 yards away. He's like, "Yeah, I got separated from my team. I've got no headlamp, no map, no cell phone." I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
Did
not
he
good.
end up finding his team? And what team was that? Because I wish they were on.
I forgot what team it was because we were in such a panic. We heard about it, and Randy had an ATV, and we hopped on the ATV and started heading that way. And as we were heading that way, we got a call from the TA that he had shown up, that he had tagged along with another team. So again, I talk about 30-meter rules all the time. It's a definite rule that you have to obey. But he was the faster one on the team, heading up Guyot. And he's like, "I'll just see you guys at a summit." And he left his team that was still climbing up. But by the time he got up there, there's 3 false summits up there that you think you're at the summit, but you're not. And he got up and started to go down to try to meet up with his team and got off track and couldn't see because it got dark. And he had a headlamp, but he didn't have any batteries.
Well,
Then he had his cell phone, no cell phone, and then he had no map.
this is the lesson. First of all, don't walk away from your team without a map.
Yeah.
That's number
Or a
one.
picture of the map. I mean, something.
Number
Yeah,
two,
when we
didn't
found him, we
separate
gave
from
him
your
a
team.
headlamp. We showed him the map. We showed him where he was, and I think we took him down to CP9. We had to go up to CP10. We had to go to 9 and 8. So we're like, "Hey, just take this road down to TA1," and we're like, "Hope you make it. Just follow the creek."
Yeah.
Well, then the funny thing is, there was just a news article maybe a month or so ago about a group that did a group outing climbing up a mountain like that. And the one guy was like behind everybody else, and that group left him. And then the guy had to get rescued off the side of the mountain after being up there for like 24 hours by himself because he got so disoriented and dehydrated. So, like, don't leave your team. And if you do, make sure you have a map and a way to contact everybody else.
I mean, there's a very easy fix to that. If you are the strongest person on the team, you are carrying the weakest person's backpack. That is what is being done. That is what you do. And especially on something like that, very high vert, low overall pace. What are you going to gain on going faster in the front? Like, the amount of backpack rotation we have in top teams is kind of a lot. You just grab the weakest person's backpack and suddenly you're slowing down. If that doesn't help, you're taking the mandatory gear from the other person. There is so many ways of helping the team to move faster than to go ahead.
We
Like,
did an AR101 on team selection, right? And how that is vital in success in adventure racing, and how you're only as fast as your slowest teammate. And that is whether they're racing well, whether they're suffering, like whatever the situation is, you're only as fast as your slowest person. And I mean,
It never benefits to lose your teammates. I mean, there was a world championship race where they were down by a river and it was so loud. The river was so loud that somebody had stopped to get to checkpoint, and the team continued on down the trail and said, just take the trail and catch up. But it was so loud they couldn't communicate. And the guy took the wrong trail, ended up coming into the TA without his team. They were in second place and then got DQ'd right there on the spot because they had lost his team. And again, in Colorado, it's just dangerous. It's absolutely, we were so worried about this guy. We were already basically starting a search party because this guy was lost from his team in a very difficult, it was getting cold, night. Everything was bad against him. Luckily, he was able to find, Eric and them and get out of there.
wow, that's a great story though.
No,
I mean,
it's not a great story
not
me.
for that guy. It's
not
a
for
great
the
story
RD sitting there.
It's a great story for AR101 though, because
great story.
You hear enough of these stories on the news, and it's like, this could have been really bad.
Oh, absolutely. Really. And listen, I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? It's not just about, it's learning from each other, right? And we learn the most from mistakes, and hopefully we can learn from other people's mistakes so we don't make them again. And that's what we're trying to do. And to show people out there that are watching this, that like, these are the kind of things and decisions that you have to make when you're out there. And I mean, Jordan and Olof, like you guys can speak to this, like being solo for a 24-hour race. I mean, it gets lonely, right? And there are times where you're like, you might not see people for hours, and you have to make sure you're going in the right direction and that you have everything that you need to be self-sustainable. Jordan, how was that being out in a race like this for 24 hours? I mean, this is definitely different than, the things
30 hours.
30 hours.
36 hours. I'm sorry. 30 hours for Olof, 36 for everybody else.
Yeah. For the most part, it wasn't too bad. Leg segments 1, 2, and 3, I was with people almost every step of the way. So it wasn't really until I stepped off Guyot that I had a couple hours by myself on the descent down Guyot. And that was fine. I'd say the low point where it got hard was that bit I was mentioning about 20 hours in, 4 a.m. on the mountain bike, where I was cold, having a real hard time bouncing back, kicking myself for leaving my puffy in my TA box, and then proceeding to, fall towards hypothermia 3 hours later. And with the hypothermia, I wasn't able to put down food. My caloric output dropped, and I was looking at this tenderfoot climb and realizing like I might not make this.
Yeah. It's really tough when because you're trying to balance not caring too much, but carrying the things that you need. Yep. I mean, that happened to my team the first year I did C2C, where my medic forgot to bring something cold, and that paddle was like 16 hours all overnight, and it dropped into what, the low 40s that night, Jeff. And it, when you're paddling for that long, you get cold because then you're wet and cold and like all of those things. And he had no jacket, no anything. We're like, we ended up having to put him in a bivy bag and sit him in the front of a canoe for 2 hours to get him to thaw out. So, so Olof, I mean, you definitely hit the most of the course. When you left,
all of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you got all of it. When you left TA2, what were your thoughts?
So coming back from Geo, yeah. So the interesting thing is that I said, because my home course advantage here is huge, right? I left that from at 7 p.m. So, and I knew that the bike leg is going to be the most brutal one. And theoretically, just due to how hard it is, Geo is definitely the most scenic checkpoint, but the hardest one is the top of Tenderfoot. I did that between 9 and 11, hiking that up. My wife said I took an hour and a half. I feel like it took at least 2 because it is like carrying your bike up that at night is so much worse than plopping up over Geo. Like it makes Geo feel like a little, oh, this was nice and fun. You know, oh, some stones on the way down. I got to be
Hold on.
careful.
Who else said this was nice and fun going up there to that other than all?
Oh, it was awesome, dude. I love that mountain.
But like it was carrying your bike up Tenderfoot is so brutal. Like, and you're doing it at night. You have no idea, like where other and you got social and here, yeah, this was by far the worst leg, and I feel like I nailed navigation perfectly because I have the home course advantage, except between 15 and 16. And sorry, guys, there's one of you, I can't remember if it was living on a prayer, is living on a prayer. You guys are the smartest guys alive. Like that, I was like, yeah, I'm going straight. I'm going straight. And realizing that I took a way longer single track, no, way shorter single track, but much, much more climbing. You have to tell the story between 15 and 16 because I feel like I nailed the course. There is not much that can be done better than I couldn't do much better on it. But you guys are brilliant for this. This is so smart. Like you need to tell the story about that because it was I mean I walked up Westridge, like tried to bike, tried to hike, yada yada. You know, it took an hour and a half. It was dark, sun was coming down, awful. And you guys did the smartest thing ever.
All right, so I'm gonna pull up their path in just a second. So this was your path.
Yeah, Olof went on the recommended route, basically.
Right. So let's look at living on a prayer. So sorry, I gotta zoom out, come over here. All right, so go ahead and talk us through that, Matt.
All right, so yeah, you get to 15, and it's a little bit of climbing, but then you look at from 15, the way up just did like it was a short distance, but it was so much of a incline to get to the top there. Just in that first like kilometer, if you will, that was just, it looked so brutal. And the truth behind the reason why we looked like our original route planning had that same recommended route on there. And our navigator, Kelly, he's such a beast, you know, on foot that he could have done that and not really felt too much different. And the other guy on my team, Brad, he's a mountain goat too. I don't know that he would have felt like much different either. And I'm here looking at that elevation gain saying, wait a second, I'm going to slow us down way too much if I try to hike a bike there. Let me just take a peek and see if I can find any other way to extend the distance if it means I get to stay on my bike and ride longer versus just, you know, pulling my bike up this mountain climb. And so after looking for a while, there was, you know, you go back down to the highway, you take this road, as you can see there, and there's a bunch of switchbacks that the tracker doesn't do justice. That was on the, you know, the map trail that you can see on the map trail. There's a lot more switchbacks going up that route. That one told me that there was a much greater opportunity that I would be on my bike much more, or two, even if it was, you know, difficult to ride, the switchbacks would definitely allow a much easier way up versus what was on there. And so the risk was it going to take a lot longer versus, you know, getting up there with a lot of energy to keep going. And so we chose that route. And truth be told, we felt great. And unfortunately, this is where the tracker just didn't capture that. I would have loved like those timestamps to see, you know, how we did and timestamps difference. Eventually I'll look like on my Garmin or something like that and try to do some more relays and comparisons. But not only did we feel good going up there, but we were, you know, in very good like mental and physical state when we got up there going that particular route. So I think it was a overall win, that route decision.
Well, and that's
It's the only thing I would change. If I could redo this race again, I'm going your way between 15 and 16. Otherwise, I'm very happy with my race.
so
But
you
the
know what you
only
need to
thing
do,
I'll
Olof,
change.
since you live there, you
Yeah.
can go from point to point and see if you could do it faster that way. Like
Oh,
how
I know I can. Their way is the best. Like and you think, okay, if you just go and do it, yeah, that's fine because you're fresh. It's different when you trotted over Geo first, have a backpack with 12 hours of night stuff on the back. Suddenly things you ride in daylight, and when you feel fresh becomes hike a bike, hike a bike, hike a bike.
Yeah.
route, loose stones, yada, and they go down, hit up Muggins Gulch, and then takes the switchbacks. It's the way to go.
Yeah.
For adventure racing. If you're completely fresh and like ready and have one bottle and don't need to have any gear on your back, sure, you can go the recommended route.
Yeah.
But
so that's another thing for people at home is don't always go the recommended route, because there could be better options. And usually those recommended routes it's probably just the point on the maps on CalTopo that gets them the easiest way from a point to another.
Yeah, it's the way I designed it. And then I gave Mark Harris the route that I used to design the course. Like I did that route. Now that I saw Matt's route, I'm like, damn, man, that would have been a lot nicer route because I did that twice. And I'm like, this sucks. But again, I try to find the suckiest route up, but the most fun single track down, because opposite sides of the mountains are two different experiences. And if I put you up the smooth, nice route going up, then the backside's all rocky and shitty and you can't go fast anyways. I just want you to have a good time going down.
Yeah. Well, so as we're wrapping up today, I want to go around to each of you and I want you to tell me your highlight and the lowest point in the race. Because I think, we get a lot of those during the race, right? There's ebbs and flows to how you feel, what you like, what you don't like, what you didn't think you were gonna like maybe ahead of time. And then you get there and you're like, wow, that was amazing.
Doug, you can start with me.
What's that?
You start with me
Okay.
because what we didn't mention is there was a 10-hour race. And we had a lot of teams that were new to adventure racing, which was awesome that they came out. They were told that if you're going to do a first time race, do a warrior race, which is what I love to hear. So I really worked with a lot of the 10-hour teams prior to the race start on helping them with navigation, building up their confidence and everything. So the great story that came out of the 10-hour race was there's these two young girls that had never done an adventure race before. Okay. And I get a call from them about halfway through, a little over halfway through. And there was a checkpoint 9, which was, I think it was like 29 for you guys or something like that. It was basically next to a pond, which had a lot of bog there. And so the girl got her legs caught in the bog and couldn't get out. The other girl had to go save her, but she got stuck too. So they're basically laying on top, trying to pull each other out of this bog, this mud up to their waist. The girl loses her shoe in the bog and they couldn't find it. So she calls me in a panic. She's like, I've got all this mountain biking left and I don't have a shoe. So I'm like, all right, do you have gauze? Do you have duct tape? Do you have all the mandatory gear? Duct tape your foot up, but she's got these spikes on her pedal, which obviously hurts,
Yeah.
So she did that. So about another hour went by and I got a call. We've got to quit. You've got to come help us. You got to come save us. I said, no, I'm not saving you. What's the problem? And she's like, well, I don't have a shoe. What size shoe do you have? We had a finisher, gave up her shoes. Megan drove and then hiked up to her where she was, gave her a new set of shoes. And they finished the course without quitting, which was an amazing story. That was my highlight, was that community of people trying to figure out, not let these girls quit because they were so close, just help them in any way to shape or form to get them to the finish.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to borrow a bike at the end of a race and or steal. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't ask them if they gave me permission to borrow that bike at the end of C2C just to finish because God damn it, I want to finish.
Yep.
So Jordan, let's start with you, man. Tell me what your highlight since this was your first race.
Mhm.
What was the highlight? And we'll start with the low and let's end on the high.
Low, it's probably going to be split either one halfway through the tenderfoot climb. Particularly, I was doing it about sunrise, and so I thought I was alone with my own thoughts, and then hunters started tearing up the path with ATVs and blowing by me, and there was no air movement, so the dust just hung around forever. So obnoxious, scary, and then kind of disorienting. So that combined was pretty low. That and I was really looking forward to the paddle, and I didn't realize there was a cutoff for 3 p.m. on the paddle, and I showed up at 1:30. And I feel like paddling is one of my more competitive disciplines. And so I felt just kind of like cut out, at the knees there. High points, probably some of the descending, like as Jeff said, like he found some really awesome single track descents. I had actually trained downhill mountain biking 2 weekends prior to the race just to warm up all my technical skills, and I was so thankful for it. There were, downhill segments that I was just getting to cut loose and shred, and I'm like, I shouldn't be having this much fun 18 hours into a race.
Yes, you should, Jordan. Yes, you should. No, that's awesome. Eric, let's go to you.
Yeah, lows. I think that CP 15 to 16 that we were just talking about was pretty much our low. I just feel like we were hike-a-biking forever. I think that was at 3 a.m. in the morning for us, so we weren't doing
Already
so
a low
great there,
point
but
because it's so hard at that time.
yeah, but luckily it was followed up by a pretty fun, descent. The other descent down into TA1 was awesome. That was on a county road, but it was still super fun. But I think overall it was just finishing, hitting the finish line, and just we had so many unknowns going into this: nutrition, gear, orienteering, whatever, you name it, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So just being able to finish and feeling like we did pretty damn good with getting a lot of points. Yeah, that was definitely the best part for me.
Nice. Matt.
So the low point was definitely when the temperatures drop. You're seeing little snow flurries come by you. Where my equipment failure is that I was able to keep my core warm, but on the mountain bike leg during the coldest part, the wind was just like ripping through my gloves. My hands are just like locked up, trying to can't use the brakes on those snaky downhills because my hands were so cold. Just had to tough through it and keep going. But that was definitely the low point. What was that mountain bike in the coldest part of the night? Kind of two quick high points was at the end of the biking, right before the paddle. I think it's like the Wonderland bike trail. Like the sun was just coming back up, you warming up, and that was just an amazing trail to kind of get your body warmed up. It was just a fun trail. It's a small little section, but man, that was fun. Kind of getting warmed up on that particular trail section, and then obviously going up the mountain, like when we saw that it was worth 3 points, like I knew this was a Jeff trap and I should avoid it at all costs. But it just adventure racing just brings you to places that you don't go otherwise. And we just had to go up there, and we got up there just before sunset. And I think Eric, I think your team might have been the one that was up there when we made it up there as well. But the sights are just amazing. So that was the other high point as well.
Nice. We'll finish it off with the winner. Olof, tell me about your low. Did you have any low points?
Oh yeah.
It's over. That's the sad part. It's done. No, the low point is, well, honestly, it's after the race because for some reason, because I'm stubborn, or I don't know, I kept pushing myself, even though everyone, I was like, oh, you're in such a lead, it's fine. I'm like, no, I'm going to treat this as like a world championship go event. Go, until like last 2 hour, 3 hours, last 2 checkpoints. I was like, no, I'm done. But I like pushed myself over the edge, so I still have like problems walking downstairs and things.
No.
Like I'm still, like hobbling around, which I don't know how sane that was. But that was a little. I could have maybe eased up a little earlier because that was not.
Never,
Like,
never,
I,
Olof, never.
I'm still aching so bad. Like my knees hurt from the vert, like tremendous. And I'm used to high vert, like, and it's like still bad. So that was maybe it. I had to cross out to the island in bike shoes at 3:45 a.m. It wasn't long, but it makes the rest of the bike pretty cold. Yeah, so that was, you know, I had sort of kept my, but otherwise, yeah, not much low. That was really good. Highlights: I got to sleep in my own bed the night before, the night after. Uh, Jeff
Sounds like you could have
adopted
gone
my
off the
son.
course and gone and done that.
Yeah. No, exactly. You should come by the house next time. It would be great. Jeff adopted my son, 5-year-old little guy, Odin, on the race crew. I got to see, like, I saw family during racing. It was like amazing. You're like tear-eyed. I got so many friends around here who sent trail mail. Like, you're like, oh, they care about what I'm doing. This is so cool. So just doing a race at home is just unbelievable. And yeah, yeah, not much. No, it's super stoked. So much fun. Just like,
Yeah. He doesn't know, but his son is the next year's RD. He wants to run the whole thing. So we're gonna let him.
All right. So just remember what you asked for there, because you know, if I have my kids that are the same age, they're gonna put one like in the middle of the lake. You have to swim to at like 3 a.m. Listen, first of all, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's been great to catch up on the race. These always go by too quick to be able to get all the amazing stories and talk about the entire course. But thanks for, you know, bringing your unique experiences to everyone. I hope that people at home got to watch this. Jeff, thanks for putting on another amazing race. We'll look forward to the next ones that are on the schedule for Warrior. And I hope that you guys will continue to follow Warrior on Facebook and Instagram. Follow AR.watch on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be at USARA Nationals this weekend, hosting the show there. So hope to see everybody there. Tune in. I know, Matt, you're going to be at the race, right? Anybody else racing nationals? No? All right.
They're still recovering.
Matt's not. Matt's like, screw it. I'm going. It's full send. Like Cobra Kai says, mercies for the weak. So, but I look forward to being out at a race with you guys soon. Hope that you'll continue to race with Warrior, and I can't wait to see you guys out there. Thanks you guys for joining us tonight at home. Hope this was entertaining for you, and we'll see you on the next AR101. So continue to get out there and live the adventure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.